Now there are a lot of successful elk hunters getting it done, some with different styles, tactics, and methods. Because y'all, there are a lot of ways to punch that tag. But for us here at ElkBros, here is our number one rule for consistent, long-term successful elk hunting. You have to create your own opportunities. For us, that means an aggressive style of hunting. But the term aggressive has different meanings for different folks. So what the heck do we mean when we say we hunt aggressive? On tonight's show, we cover the ElkBros levels and progressions of aggressive elk hunting, what it is and what it is not, and how it's been a game changer for us. That discussion, some ElkBros shout outs, and some questions from our ElkBros mailbox. So my friends, pull up a chair, adjust your volumes just right, and welcome to Blue Collar Elk Hunting.
Welcome to Blue Collar Elk Hunting, brought to you by ElkBros.com, with your host Gilbert Ornelas and elk hunting coach Joe Gilliam. You want to hunt elk, and they live to hunt elk. Their goal is to share with you what they have learned grinding it out for over 35 seasons, doing what they love. So come on into camp and set a spell. Welcome to Blue Collar Elk Hunters.
Hello there, everyone. If it's your first time with us, glad to have you. Hope you enjoy our show. And as always, for those blue collar hunters following our show and grinding it out with us every week, welcome back to Elk Camp. I'm the host of your show, Gilbert Ornelas, coming to you from Spring, Texas. And that's right, we got one of the leaders of the Venezuelan Mafia with us from Katy, Texas. Luis Gonzalez is in the house. And that's right, we have the living legend himself, R.C. Knox from Cuesta, New Mexico, in the house with us. And one of our top elk hunting ElkBros coaches from Las Cruces, New Mexico, E-Man, Eric Aragon. And that's right, in the house, large and in charge, from Cimarron, New Mexico, we have the ninja, Leroy Chavez. What's going on, fellas?
What's up, Big O?
Oh, Beto, man, you're just kind of, putting yourself lower and lower on that.
Man, if I can't make one happy, I can't make none happy.
I had you way up there, dude. And it's just like you're regressing there.
I know.
Yeah.
Man, I got a little bit of a sinus infection, fellas, so I'm a little off my game. I'm sorry.
We've heard you off your game before, man. But I tell you what, last episode, dude, you were just knocking it out of the park, man. I felt so much energy. And you mentioned one of our top coaches here. I have to give a shout out to Cole. Cole's out there grinding, trying to knock down deer and yotes and everything.
Yeah, he's in. Where's he at, Joe? Somewhere up in the Midwest?
Nebraska.
Oh, that's
Nebraska.
Right. That's
Yeah, Nebraska muley hunting, right? Public land muley hunting.
Yeah.
I almost got it done in the first 100 yards from what he said.
Yeah.
He had one on. He walked up to one at 5 yards. He was bedded and popped up on him.
Yeah.
Like a whack-a-mole, man.
Well,
Yeah.
Cole ain't used to him to being 5 yards from him, I promise.
the sad thing is he was walking back to his truck. It was one of those when you least expect it type things, So, so we'll give you a shout out.
I think he had a couple of times this year when he was elk hunting too, Joe. If he'd just stayed by his truck, he'd have killed one.
Yeah, but I tell you what, man, he shot a coyote with his bow, and putting
That's
a spotting
tough.
stock on a coyote during the day.
He's the man.
That's something else, man. That's
a trophy.
impressive.
It's a big old yoke too, in full bloom too, man. He's got his winter
he's got
coat
nice
on.
fur. Yeah.
He's going to be beautiful, man. I hope he skins him out and cherishes that rascal. That's a really nice coyote he shot.
So, guys, there's something that we wanted to talk about to let our listeners know, and I'd like to get some reactions from our listeners on this as well. And for you guys out there listening, we've already had our little board meeting here. The meeting of, if we put all of us together, we can get one mind.
We can light the city of New York with all that electricity.
Especially when Manano's not around, it's a lot easier to just concentrate and focus and just, be intelligent about it.
Oh my goodness.
The counselor's not invited.
No, and I'll tell you what we were talking about is that there's going to be some changes with the podcast, and it has nothing with our content. It's gonna be us doing our thing. We're gonna stay in our lane. We'll do a little bit out of our lane here and there. We got Luis, who's in Manano, who are just daggum pig killers, and they want to talk about that some, and we'll get a chance to do that. And we got guys chasing deer and doing different things, and we'll talk about it. But this is always going to be Elk Bros. It's going to be about all things elk. And we've talked about the fact that what the goals of our podcast is. And guys, like we've always said, man, our goal has always been to invite you into our elk camp and share our passion while coaching, inspiring, and showing you that anyone, and I mean anyone, no matter their age, income, shape, size, sex, or where you call home, if you are coached and given the knowledge and help in developing your skill set and the needed physical preparation and mindset required, and the belief in yourself and your abilities, that anyone can be a successful elk hunter. And that's what we try to do. That's where our passion is. And, like we've said, this is our way of meeting together and sharing that information. And it's been really cool because we have been bringing other people into the fold. You get to meet some of our new coaches, and that's going to grow, man, because where Elk Bros is going with elk coaches is so exciting. We got some things that are on the horizon of things that are going to be happening that, it's going to be really exciting to talk about that. But for this show, for this podcast, for us, we always want to be real, who we are, and we want to provide something of value for you, never going through the motions. And I know there's always going to be times, this is elk hunting, and we're going to get some of the same questions, each time as new people come into the fold, or we might get the same question in a different way, which is exactly what we're looking for.
Yeah.
But what we're looking at is, because of the fact that really doing all this free content has really taken away our ability to work on some of our content that we have for our academy as well. So a lot of work, y'all, goes into this show. I mean,
yes, a tremendous amount of work, especially when you got Manano on the podcast and Joe's having to edit
everything. The 2 times
that's the pot calling the kettle black, Joe. I know. I can create just as much havoc.
Oh, you
guys, I have fun doing it.
Oh, but then we have Manano egging you on, man. It's
all the time.
Bigo, give us some language.
Yeah, for sure.
Everybody wants the Elk Bros Unplugged edition, man. That's
Unleashed.
I don't know about that. We'll find out if they do. So really, look,
it's our goal to turn some of this into having some of our grinders in camp with us one day. Absolutely. And they'll get that. They will get that first hand. You can ask the CEO, Rob Canales, and the Flatlander Cole Wilkes how he felt about that. So it is a treat, no doubt, when these boys come with all of their splendor, man. It is quite the show and quite the scene, and we have a great time in elk camp. But like Joe said, this is what we want for our listeners, to be in elk camp with us every podcast, right?
Yeah. So what our current plans are, y'all, is that as a schedule, we're still going to release our show on Tuesdays, but we're looking at releasing this show bi-weekly. Now, there might be, and we're really hoping to do some shows with, if we get viewer questions and we get a load of those, we might have a show that we pop in with viewer questions. If we have, and we really like to start doing some shows with some of our successful grinders out there, or even some of our unsuccessful grinders out there, to talk about those issues that they had. And let's talk about where we can go with those. I think you learn just as much from that, if not more, than when everything goes right, but we've got a lot of those people out there. So listen, y'all, you guys have been sending us emails and stories and stuff, make sure you're sending your phone number, because we're going to be giving you a call up, and we're going to be sticking you in here, and be ready. Hope you come with some thick skin, because these boys.
This group, you better have it.
Yeah, because
No
Chav
doubt.
is notorious, man. I'm
Yeah, he'll give you the hardest
behind the
time.
scenes, man.
Yeah.
Behind the scenes, he's rough.
Just never know.
So
You
we're
bet.
looking at going bi-weekly, and that doesn't mean that, and especially now as we hit November, December, January, and most of you guys are really, and that's when we see a lot of the listens going down and downloads, because people are spending time with family, man,
And in
and
the
there's
woods.
a lot of things going on. We get that, and we're going to be going through that as well. So it gives us opportunity to ensure that we're giving you quality content. That's always our goal. If it gets to the point where we're just here, just wah, wah, wah. And this part
Yeah,
of the
and-
show, what's that, bud?
Yeah, and we want to hear from you guys.
Absolutely.
You guys, if y'all, we'd like to have your input on our content, and you know, even its readability. I mean, if you guys feel like that, you know, we need to step it up in an area, whatever, we want to hear from you. Don't mean we're going to do it, but at the end of the day, you know, we want to take that into account, because you know, without our grinders, we ain't got anything. You know,
Today's show, Gilbert, was inspired from me talking to one of our listeners, man.
right.
And that listener asked a question that told me, we didn't explain this well enough, man. That some people just don't get it. And the perception of the word aggressive and what that means, you know, is that, you know, it can be different from the reality. And we wanted to make sure. So it came from our listeners.
Yeah. And Joe, when I saw the topic, and we talked about it even beforehand, man, I got 2 or 3 scenarios that happened this year that are aggressive scenarios, right? That you couldn't have got it done without being the one we did get it done and one we didn't get it done, right? So without being aggressive. So it was it's some fantastic content that our listeners are going to get tonight, Joe.
Yeah. So just look for that in the future, and we'd like to hear from you. We'd like to hear from you on how you're feeling. And, you know, we always talk about reviews and ratings. And to me, when I see that, you know, we haven't gotten a review or any reviews in a number of weeks, it shows me that maybe we're not doing what we need to do. And guys, we're not going to be on here just to fill airspace for you. We're not here. We know that your time's valuable. We know that you want to be with us in elk camp and learn something from that. So that's our goal. So I just wanted to get that out there, Gilbert, and we wanted to talk about it in the future. And we're going to have lots of other stuff to talk about in the future, but we need our listeners to know that this show is about you guys. You can tell that from our shout outs, the things that we've kept in here. So if you have questions, comments, concerns, needs, misunderstandings, shortcomings, blank areas in your hunting skill set, send that stuff in. Ask us those questions. Be part of this so that we can help not only you, but help other people out there as well.
Absolutely. A great segue into our shout outs, Joe. You guys know what time it is. It's time for the ElkBros shout outs. If you're new to our show, this is just a few cities with the most listeners topping our charts this week, Joe.
Here we go. This top listening city at the base of the Rocky Mountains 10-mile range is known for its world-class skiing, year-round alpine activities, and gold rush history. It was founded in 1859 and named after a local prospector. The International Snow Sculpture Championships are held here every January, where sculptors from all over the world create works of art from 20-ton blocks of snow. It also hosts the Winter Dew Tour, featuring the biggest names in extreme snowboarding and skiing, and this is in Breckenridge, Colorado.
Breckenridge, yeah!
Breckenridge, Colorado in the house. Beautiful ski city.
How
little town.
How big would 20-ton block of snow be?
That's big.
Big as my house.
Super duper big.
I know a gallon of water weighs 8 pounds, and
Yes.
I know how much snow it takes to melt just to get a gallon of water. So I'm like, holy Toledo, man! That's got to be one heck of a sculpture.
It's actually 8.33, Joe.
8.33 pounds. That's right. Says the engineer.
Where's Manano when you need him, man? We need somebody with some
Yeah.
intelligence on here.
Joe, this next top listening city, founded in 1890, This city was named in reference to a gold rush in Canada. It attracted immigrants from the Czechoslovakia and Moravia and became known as the Czech capital of Oklahoma. It served as the urban center for the area farmers and the site of a large milling operation. It received national media attention in 1949 because of plight of Grady Cow, who was stuck in a silo for over 4 days.
Oh my
It's
God.
also host to a Western Rock the Route Festival, a Czech festival, and the Chisholm Trail and Crayfish Festival, in none other than Yukon, Oklahoma.
Yukon.
Yukon, Oklahoma in the house.
Go Yukon.
It's also the home of Southern Nazarene College, who my daughter plays against in the GAC conference.
So
Oh, cool.
who
Been to
whips who?
Yukon.
Who whips who, bro?
Man, just depends on every year. But last year, OBU got the best of them, so it was pretty good.
Yeah. I wonder if that Ornelas athlete had anything to do with that.
I'm sure. She's a leader, Joe.
Absolutely, man. No
The
doubt.
city of Yukon, though, is a really pretty place, man. I like the city.
I've always wanted to hunt moose in Yukon, man. Think I
Me
can
too.
find some
That's
there?
a little further north up there, Joe.
Oh,
Just a slight little bit further north.
I can't go to Oklahoma then find me a moose.
No moose in Yukon.
Oh,
Maybe at the local tavern or something like that, Joe.
yeah. What's Brums? Is that the ice cream place that has
Brahms.
they have
Brahms.
they have one of the mooses there that move and stuff like that. I think that's where
Yeah.
you'll find the moose up there.
Yeah.
So next up, this city was named after the area's first permanent settler, a full-blooded Lower Creek Indian from Kashita Band from Shetown in Alabama. In 1850, he established a trading center near the meeting of the Polecat and Rook Creeks. The main industry started with walnuts, then went to pressed brick. It evolved to clay products and then glass manufacturing. It became known as the Crystal City of the Southwest. Historic Route 66 ran through the city, and it is home to the world's tallest, and this is 74 feet, antique replica of a gas pump in Sapulpa, Oklahoma.
Oklahoma.
Two top cities from Oklahoma in a
In
row.
the house.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Holy.
Yes, sir. Joe, they got an elk herd. Don't they have an elk herd out west in western Oklahoma and those little ridge mountains they have out towards that way?
So there are elk in Oklahoma because I know that AMP, our flying ace from the
Yeah.
Air Force, buddy.
And I thought it was at the Panhandle area, right?
It may be, yeah, out in western.
Yeah, because they have them on
There's
they
some
have them
little-
on
there's
base
some-
there.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
some little mountains out there that I think they've got a herd of them on for sure.
Yeah, it's a whole different, I mean, they're lower hills and stuff like that. So yeah, but they absolutely have some elk in there. So Pulpa, man.
Anybody been to Sapulpa? Have you been there, Gilbert?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Cool.
Yeah, that's a wrong question to ask, Eric. Come on, dude.
Yeah.
Oh, he's a well driller.
Gilbert's
I
been
should know
everywhere.
better, right?
Yeah, it's just outside of the town of Bixby.
Gilbert's like the
Biggs.
George Washington of the country, dude, man. Their
Man,
sign
I mean-
says Big O slept here.
Big O was here.
Yeah, big O's everywhere, man.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's just outside of Tulsa there, buddy. So
Yeah.
Well, let's see if you've been to this city, Gilbert. This city's part of the Kansas City metro area, and it's about 20 miles from Westport, Missouri. And it's where the start of the Santa Fe Trail originated. And it meanders from this area and on its way to just a place up north from me, Santa Fe, New Mexico. So the name's a derivative of the name Nanexe, the name of the Shawnee chief Thomas Blackhoof's wife. So the widow signed a treaty back in 1854, and she turned over 1.6 million acres of that Shawnee reservation
wow.
to the U.S. government. So in June, it hosts a great barbecue battle, which sounds really good. And it's also home to the Kansas State Championships as well. It's known as the spinach capital of the world. I mean, this place is the birthplace of Garmin, right? It used to be called
Yeah.
NAVPro. And I mean, people who have been born or lived there, famous people, historians, boxers, I mean, WWE wrestlers, gymnasts, football tight ends. Wild Bill Hickok was from there.
Get
You
out of
got
here.
soccer midfield. Yes, Paul Rudd, the famous actor, Lucas Rodriguez, a soccer midfielder. I mean, people from America's Got Talent. Just an unbelievable place. But here's a big ElkBros shout out to Lenexa, Kansas.
Lenexa.
Mexican.
Lenexa,
Yeah.
Kansas.
Eric,
So have you
Eric,
been there?
I think we got a designated. I think we got a designated top listening cities from now on, man. I think Eric's got it. I think he needs to. I think he needs to read them all, man. He just made it sound so freaking nice. It's like he knew this place.
Oh
you know?
man, it's a cool place.
Freaking
Never
awesome.
been there, but I want to go. So,
Yeah.
Yeah. So I grew up. I say I grew up. I lived in a little town called Overland Park, which is just a suburb of Kansas
yeah, it's
City.
right next
And
to us.
Lenexa's
Exactly.
right below it. Yeah, it's just south of
Yep,
it.
sure is.
that's just awesome, dude. You're just like a Google champion there, Eric.
That's what
Definitely.
Wikipedia does, buddy.
Yeah, man. It's pretty slick, pretty quick.
Our last city is a part of the Charleston metro area, was established in 1961, the year I was born, but had a long history dating back many centuries. In the 1670s, the year RC was born, the native Etowah Indians moved to the area seeking protection from rival natives to live among the plantations of early settlers. The early settlers were referred to as Goose Creek men, as they inhabited the area along Goose Creek. Most of the naval weapons station in Charleston is located here. This is the Atlantic Fleet's loadout base for all nuclear ballistic missile submarines. At its peak, 2,500 nuclear warheads were stored and maintained here and guarded by a U.S. Marine Corps security force. And that's in Goose Creek, South Carolina.
Wow.
That's a bunch of WOMDs right there, brother.
Yeah. And you got the right crew guarding that stuff. You got the Marine Corps, man. You don't
No
want to
doubt.
mess with them boys.
No.
No.
Negative Ghost Rider.
That pattern's full.
Say that so they can hear it in the back, Gilbert.
Yeah. Negative Ghost Rider.
All right, guys, man. Thanks to all of our top listening cities there, man, from all over the place. Oklahoma kind of took over,
Man, no
Colorado
doubt.
at the top of the list, man, and my home state of South Carolina coming out. So thank you guys, man. Today's topic.
Joe, I just want to say, I think it's the first week in maybe 2 years that Washington was not in our top listening cities.
Hey, Washington.
Where you at? Where's the West Coast with the
Where's it
most?
at?
Oh my goodness, man. Well, you know what it is all them fellas are hunting.
Exactly. I'm sure they're all in the woods.
They're all in the woods, man. All out there hunting right now. So we were going to talk about today's topic. Like I said, it actually came from a listener out there. And, you know, some of the questions that I was getting showed me that people take the term aggressive. Like if I say that we hunt aggressive, well, it was like they felt like we go around screaming challenge bugles. You know, it's just that
Yeah.
that's pretty much what it's about, is that, you know, we go out, we locate, we get an answer, and we scream a challenge bugle, man. You get aggressive right away. And
And maybe when I first started doing it, I
Yeah,
did,
same
you know,
with me.
Joe, I mean, when you're first starting out calling, you don't really know what you're saying, you know, you just know you're making an elk sound. So again, it's so important for you to understand the language.
well,
Can't say that enough.
the thing I wanted to point out, though, is our aggressive style of hunting is not just about the calling, man.
No doubt. No doubt.
It has to do with so many different things. It has to do with the way that we locate,
way we
some of the
move.
things that we do to inject rut activity,
Mhm.
the different times of the day, or even the fact that sometimes we've stayed with herds at night, you know, all the way through till the next day. These are aggressive acts. In other words, I think the best way, if I was to say our most basic and simple terms of what I mean by aggressive, it means that we are aggressive in creating like
Our
you said earlier,
opportunities,
in
yeah.
creating an opportunity. We do not wait for things to happen.
Yeah.
You know, you can take in any area of that. Like I said before, you can, in our calls, we're not passive in our calling. How we react to a response. If we hear an elk, we are not passive in any way, gauge, or form, man. And like if we are in position, in fact, this is not just archery; it's in rifle. It just happened with my client I was guiding this weekend. Is that we had a group of elk that came flying out in front of us, going through some trees, heading down a hill, and man, what we did was an aggressive move. We jumped on that, went into those trees, cow called immediately. They stopped out in that opening there. Not sure because of the way things got spread out. They weren't sure, oh, was that a lead cow calling us back in? Because I did a regathering muse out there, did some real long stuff. Next thing you know, we're setting up with a 140-yard shot. And here now, as the elk are moving, he only has a window, right? Just a window at 143 yards. Well, as elk are going through, most people are going to let them walk and either take a shot when they're walking or they're out in and out the window and they don't get a shot opportunity. Not us, man. I'm aggressive. So when I see that elk get in that window, I stop it, right? You know, if that's not the one and then they walk out, I stopped 4 different elk in that window before we popped one. So even with the rifle, you can get aggressive in that way. And you know, go ahead, Gilbert.
No, I just was going to harken back to an awesome hunt that I had with the ninja Leroy Chavez, and truly a ninja. We had a really cool hunt on an evening hunt where, you know, we were in the middle of a herd of elk, and being aggressive was our mode, no doubt, getting in the middle of it. But we knew that if we were going to say anything, they were going to detect our presence, right? So we were so in tight with them that we just kept moving as they moved, feeding from us. We had the wind in our face, and we just started dogging them. And once we got up in there amongst them, Joe, we were in there so tight. We had elk at 12 feet from us, right? And when you say about being aggressive or being passive, okay, even with our calling in that point, those bulls got a little whiff of us and they got real nervous, right? And they started like they wanted to go away. Well, if I didn't know what I knew and didn't have such good teaching, I turned my bugle tube up from under me and just made the softest little cow chirp, right, away from us. And man, they all settled down after that. They were like, oh, well, hey, man, there's a cow over there. And we had a barrier in front of us too, Joe, right? So you talk about being aggressive. The aggressive nature was to even call to them after they'd gotten kind of freaked out.
So where's the irony in that situation? I mean,
if we shut up, we do nothing. If we shut up, they leave, right? Yeah. So if you don't try to create your opportunity and get them back to you, we actually had to call them across a barrier to make that happen. And they are nervous as heck. You can ask Chab. I mean, they were very, very nervous because they knew something wasn't right and they should be seeing an elk over there, but they're not yet. But these bulls were younger bulls with an older bull with them. And the older bull he didn't want no part of it. Right. But them younger bulls we were aggressive enough with our passive calling that it sparked
with your soft calling
interest.
Yeah. With your
exactly.
Soft calling,
yeah. Soft calling, calling. I wouldn't say it passive calling. Yeah. I would say it's soft, but I never let them rest. Every time they'd act like they wanted to go somewhere else, I'd hit them with something, right. To get them to come back. And once we got them to right where thank God they made the decision when they did, because we were running out of light. But had we not tried to create that opportunity, Joe, and be aggressive, we'd have been watching them on the other side over there the rest of the night.
See, that's the point right there, though. That is such an awesome example because most people, it sounds ironic. It sounds opposite that you're calling. You said, I made a soft cow call. That's being aggressive. Most people do not associate a soft cow call with being aggressive.
Sure.
But it's not the call. It's not about the call. It's not about the emotion. It's not about that. It's about the action of doing something to create an opportunity where a lot of people wouldn't. They would stay passive and let them animals walk out of their life.
one of the
Yeah,
things we call aggressive as well is when we decide to close the gap and close the distance really fast in
Yeah.
order to get, to a position
Well,
where
y'all
we
do.
feel
I
we
do it
can set
slow,
up.
but y'all do it fast.
Well, but I mean, just regardless, it's actually closing the gap versus staying back there and waiting for the elk to just kind of make a move miles away. You know
if
what I
I've
mean?
learned
It's
anything from Joe, I've learned you got to blow it up to make it happen. Right. You got to risk the biscuit,
Risk
right?
blowing it up.
Yeah. Risk blowing it up to make it happen, man. And when it does blow up, you got options. You can stop that animal, right? By being aggressive, by not staying shut up and worrying that you're going to run him out of the country. You can stop that animal if he boogers, right? Because he don't really know that's you. He just knows that something is awry. And when he hears another elk sound, he's going to stop. It happened to me and RC and Brendan this year. If I don't say a word, that bull runs out of our life. He runs clean out of our lives if I don't say a word. And if we don't try to get an arrow knocked up, ain't none of us going to get a shot at that bull.
Gilbert,
he's 18 yards from us.
One of the things I learned this year is it's amazing how much you can get away with different calls.
Yes.
As long as there isn't movement. So
right.
I think they're more sensitive to movement than anything else.
100%.
So, but if you're not moving and you're calling and you're like, the stuff you can get away with is crazy. I mean, my bull, for example, this year, I missed it.
Before you go to your bull, you mean movement when you're in sight of the animal?
When you move and the animal gets to see you moving.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
That'll send them into orbit.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that's
not always.
Really.
Yeah.
No, yeah. But I mean, I feel that you can get away with a lot more on the calling side than on the movement. I mean, to me, it's like they don't like movement if they don't understand it. Obviously, it's better if you have a decoy.
Predators are moving on them.
But with the calls, it's like don't be afraid to be aggressive. Even with passive calls, or not passive, but soft calls, don't be afraid to be aggressive by using a lot of soft calls, because you can get away with a lot more than you think.
Sure.
I guess that's my point.
RC was standing right next to me, and that bull was going to run clean out of our lives. And, we cow called to him maybe 3 or 4 times, and he heard that, and man, I mean, he was like, "Oh, whoa, I'm missing the party," whoa, I'm missing the party, and he turned broadside, and that was it, man. That's the only shot we were going to get at him. And RC, you can hear it in the video when Joe puts it out. You guys will check it out. RC's like, "I'm not taking that shot; it's too far," and we sent it anyway, and I got the opportunity to be out in front. Brendan was still on the right side of everything and just not on the good side. But I'll tell you one thing, camera A showed up. He had his camera out in the middle of that and got the shot, got the kill, the whole 9 yards. But again, we were in a real passive state because we had just set up and made a real aggressive calling sequence, RC?
Yeah.
We'd just been in 2 different places setting up, making real aggressive calling sequences.
Now I'm interrupting you because when you say doing a real aggressive calling sequence, other people hearing this, and this is why we're doing this show, are thinking that you're screaming a whole bunch of challenge bugles, right?
No.
I mean, you're being aggressive, right? You're doing challenge bugles. What do you mean?
We set up a rut scenario, right? A bull with a cow who's displaying for a cow, and he's raking and stuff like that. And that's what that bull was initially coming in to find.
What you mean by aggressive? It's just simply being vocal. Just calling a lot.
Yes.
It doesn't necessarily mean to be an aggressive call. It's just calling a lot.
It means he's in a situation where most people are not hearing elk. So they're thinking there are no elk.
Right.
And all they're doing is continuing to move through the woods. And instead, he took an aggressive stance by trying to create an opportunity by him injecting a rut into the area, and so that other animals can hear that and they can come to him instead of all of us always having to do a locate and go to them.
Right.
we don't have to. It's the same thing, man. It's like your wife shopping in Walmart, man. You can walk around them aisles all day. Trust me. I mean, I put friggin' miles on trying to find my wife, man. But if you yell for her, you go, "There's a half off sale over here." That woman's going to come.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. That's
Blue
right.
light special.
Heck yeah.
So Joe,
that's
as a
cool.
rookie, you know,
as a what?
as a rookie,
As a rookie.
newbie.
A newbie.
Okay, all right.
Newbie.
I'm sorry, I'm just
Rookie.
busting on you, dude, man.
I know. That's why I had to look for a synonym.
Woo, got straight educational on you there,
That's
Joe.
right. That's right. That's
So
right.
I want you to hold your newbie rookie thing there, and because Eric, you were going to say something a little while ago. I wanted to hear what that was.
Yeah, I mean, that term aggressive years ago for myself would have meant exactly what Gilbert was talking about. It would have been me screaming bugles, challenging everything that I heard.
Because you didn't know what
I
you
had
were saying.
Yeah, I didn't know what I was saying exactly.
Mhm.
When I had this kid that I met from Farmington that was on the last show, Bryce. We invited him to hunt with us for 3 days because he was by himself, didn't have a lot of experience. And as we went through the first day, that's the one question I asked him. I said, "Okay, tell me what you're seeing. What are you thinking? How is this different from what you're doing?" He's like, "I can't believe how aggressive you are." And I said, "Okay, well, what do you mean by that?" He said,
Right.
I said, "Do I seem like I'm over aggressive in my calling?" He goes, "No, I don't mean that, because you're always explaining to me about why you're doing it, but you're like relentless. You're covering a lot of ground, and you do a lot of scenarios." And so what I had to explain to him, I said, "Yeah, what I call aggressive, I think it's more me just being very active in how I execute my tactics daily.
Yep.
Because when I'm coming out here, I'm using
Agreed.
my maps. I was using the intel he was giving me about
Sure.
where we were finding elk sign. So it's just I'm very active in executing my plan, even if it means we're going to sit down and have lunch.
Yep.
It's just I'm just super active about working that because I have confidence in it.
Yep.
And
Me too.
yeah, and there's a lot of hit and miss with it, but yeah,
Mhm.
I think with that, it's just when I think aggressive, yeah, I'm aggressive. I'm chasing it, but I'm very active just in my approach and how I
And
go about it.
you're absolutely right that there's going to be a lot of hit and miss, but the
Is.
difference is it's not going to be a lot of miss and miss.
Right.
Do you follow
No,
me with that?
I think if we don't do what we did this year in Colorado,
Yeah.
Joe, we're not near as successful.
You don't see anything, bro.
Because those bulls were not going to talk in the mornings to really necessarily tell you where they were. You had to take it to them.
Yeah.
And we learned real quick with the mafia, giving us the story and the scoop and what everything RC and I saw every morning. Working with elk and in the absence of elk. And then the first evening that I called a bull in for RC, it was us being aggressive as heck calling. I called in another bull and some cows behind me, that when I turned around, they scared the crap out of me. But I knew then, I went cling, the old fishing, part of Gilbert goes ding. All right, man. Now I know it's all about presentation. It's got nothing to do necessarily about area, because there's elk in this area. It's about presentation, right? Yeah. And it's about us putting our feet together and taking care of the miles that we need to go in those areas where they like to be, because they are pressured. And then us speaking the language, and curiosity killed the cat for those bulls. They all want to find cows, right, at that time of year, that breeding sequence. And so for me, it was a big light that went on. And I'm sure, look, I've hunted a million times with RC. He didn't call as much. I'm sure he probably felt like calling overload with me, or maybe he felt like he was hunting with Joe. I mean, I don't know, but at the end of the day, I did know that that's the way Joe hunts. And that's the way I hunt now, is we're going to get in there and make as many opportunities as we can to get something to talk. And if we do get something talking, or we do put eyes on a herd of elk, they're in serious trouble, because of our aggressive nature. We are not going to sit back and wait on the elk. We are going to take it to them every day.
And I think for our listeners, if you substitute the word active for aggressive, they'll have an idea what you're all talking about.
Yeah.
I think Eric hit that on the head.
We
Even
are
persistent.
We are acting instead of reacting.
Yes.
Is basically what is happening there. And now, Luis, you had some, and I'm going to talk about the word risk here in a second, but you said something about a newbie.
Yeah. So, obviously I just said something about it's amazing what you can get away with by, just being aggressive, calling. But then at the same time, active. But then at the same time, I did learn this year how too much calling or calling at the wrong time may work against you, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So, I mean, it's a fine balance, right? And then it's a hard one to explain unless you're kind of exposed to it and see it firsthand. And for me, I think when you have the elk moving towards you within 30, 40 yards, you stay quiet until that animal really hangs up, and then you have to do something about it. But you stay quiet until...
I'm sorry, dude. It just depends. I got to throw the word depends in there because I've been in too many situations when they're that close, and either I've got my only opportunity to draw, or I mean, like if you have one that's coming and walking through into a kill shot, there's no reason for you to say anything unless you need to stop them, if you're already drawn. But if you're not drawn, then you got to do something, or you try to draw and then see how the reaction is. So that's where I'm saying is you got to kind of read the situation,
read their body language too.
Yeah. I see that. And in my example was, we had this cow coming, right? And she was coming on a string, and I was like,
blew it up.
no. I'm talking about my cow, right?
Oh, okay.
And so she kind of just slightly stopped behind a tree, but she was kind of grazing and she was comfortable. And then I was too close, and I threw another cow call, which she didn't like, and then she turned around and left. So I was like, man, that was probably
one cow call, man, or was it one of them little calico kitty calls?
Manano's too quiet. Manano was quiet. I told him not to say it or do anything. So I mean, it's just, again, it to your point, I agree. It depends, right? But in this situation, I learned that there is also a way to, hey, in that opportunity, I guess I was probably too aggressive or too active, and it just kind of didn't work for me. But again, how many opportunities like that do we have during this trip? And there were a lot, even though that the elk population wasn't up there as we thought it would be, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And
because we were active.
And you already had an animal in there. It was just the decision making with the animal already close. And that happens a lot. You'd be surprised how many people I talk to that say they had an elk coming into, and they're already drawn or something, and they got an elk walking into the spot to be shot, and they make a call that they don't need,
never needed to say a word. I got to hunt with the awesome Joe Gillia one year, and watched him kill a bull, and then we dive off the mountain at another bugle, and he calls in a bull for me. And he wasn't a big bull, it was a raghorn. And that bull actually, Joe started calling, and we could see the bull's legs walking towards us, and he just kept coming, man. And Joe shut completely up, which, he could have kept cow calling and everything else, but Joe never said a word. The bull, he shut up, which is not like Joe, but he shut up. And
that's what my wife says too, dude.
Yeah. Mine too, Joe. I got a big bad habit of running my big bazoo all the time. But listen, that bull was coming on a string. He knew there was a cow over there. Joe had already give him one of them pleading cow calls, and whiny, noisy call, little butt contact buzz, and hear that bull coming. He was not running. He kind of trotting, and then he started walking, and he was looking for us. And I heard him kind of one time like that, and he was looking all over for us. And the bull just kept coming, and he cleared some trees, and then the bull steps out and offers a quartering frontal shot to me. And Joe says, man, he's 40 yards draw. And I mean, the bull is looking past us. I draw, the bull kind of looks at us. He says 40, and I think he was like 44. We sent it. Que sera, bull falls within the sight of us, and he dog piles me and about kills me. But we didn't have to say a word other than when the bull was coming, you know, when he saw the bull's legs hopping and crow hopping towards us, he just sent out that little contact buzz, and that was it. That bull had to come see what it was, but our setup was key there, right? The bull couldn't see real good past us. So he knew once he, you know, it was thick in there. So he had to keep coming to find that elk, you know? So setup was key, but our aggressive nature bailing off to him was even more key. And then knowing when to shut up was the perfect thing. Cause Joe could have kept calling and he'd have just stood there in that thick stuff looking for the elk. Right.
And
I'm almost 100% certain that's exactly what would have happened.
We're going to talk about being active in your setup. So
Yes.
and Chad's done a great job of giving us a word to replace there that people understand a little bit. And I think we got to do that a lot. And I even got to do it in the academy is talk about the word active over aggressive.
Yes.
And we tell people, like when we talk about our defense on a basketball team, you know, we want that defense to be an active defense, but not just moving the feet. We want them moving forward, or we want them taking action, right? So that's where we get that term aggressive from. We tell them, be aggressive, you know, reach for that ball, make a steal. And so those are the same things that we want out of our athletes, out of our hunters out there. Is we want you to reach out. We want you to make a steal when most people would have just stood back and not done that, right? They wouldn't put themselves in position. They wouldn't draw back the bow. They wouldn't
knock an arrow.
Yeah, exactly.
They wouldn't move around in front of that tree. You know, they wouldn't do those things that would give them their shot opportunity.
Absolutely. Bingo. But I want to talk about that word risk because it goes right into this. And I want all of our hunters to understand something. No risk, no reward.
100.
No risk, no reward. So we always talk about not only creating your opportunities, but taking advantage of those opportunities or pressing the odds. And again, you know, if you, like Gilbert mentioned, if you have an animal and you are behind that tree, or you were in a setup and you thought animal was going to come through lane A, but now the animal has turned, is coming through an unexpected area where you don't have a shooting lane, you have choices here. Your choice is to be passive and to stay there so you don't spook that animal and let that animal walk out of your life, right?
Negative.
So what is your chance of killing that animal if you make that passive choice? Zero.
Right.
Zero, right? Okay. Or you take a risk, you make an aggressive, active move, and you take a step to ensure a shooting lane where that animal is going to be. Now, here's the things that could happen. That animal could come in there, you're at draw, you shoot that animal and you kill it. Boom, we are successful now. Or you make a move there and that animal blows up, turns and goes running out of your life. Now what you've done is at least you've given yourself the opportunity to make the kill. You've gone from 0 chance to anywhere from 50% to 100% chance, right? You've just
I mean,
your odds.
We watched it unfold from us. We boogered that elk how many times, RC? 3 times before he left the vicinity?
Yeah.
Most
times, definitely.
We boogered that elk 3 times. He caught us 3 times doing stupid stuff. I mean, but we had to. If we don't do anything, he'll walk out of our life anyway, right? So, I mean, look, when I'm telling you, he was inside of 20 yards from us, and he is drinking and chewing on algae and everything else, and he don't even have a clue we're there. You have got, and in that instance, none of us had an arrow knocked. So you got to knock an arrow to even get a shot at drawing, right? So both RC and I, with Brendan's bow on the ground, he's on the camera, both RC and I are fumbling, and look, we're nervous, right? Because we got this bull right where we want him. You know, I mean, he is leg extended, quartering away at 18 or less, 17, 18 yards. I mean, it is a slam dunk, right? And look, RC's got the line. I have a aspen tree in the kill, but I'm still going to try to get my arrow knock. If RC gets the arrow knock first, I'm telling you, it's over, right? And he does get an arrow knock. But when he goes to try to draw, that arm rubbing on the back of that aspen, that was it. That's all that bull could handle, right? After the third time, I heard him looking up at us while we're clanging around trying to get an arrow knock. But listen, guys, I'm telling you straight up, if we don't risk that, we never get a shot at that bull.
Absolutely.
And then the bull finally decides, I've had enough. These fools, I don't know what that is over there in them aspen trees, but we were smart enough not to have ourselves wide out in the wide open. We had some backdrop in there with us on the downwind side of where we needed to be if he was going to come in. And when he took off running, I always have a reed in my mouth, man, the whole time I'm elk hunting. So when that bull took off, and yeah, man, and I mean, he ran out there, turned broadside pretty as you please. I got a gift from, I thought he was 50. Brendan told me 53. And I mean, he don't get 53 out of his mouth good before the arrow is gone, man. Yeah, and we center punched him at 53, watched him fall. Dude, it was a glorious occasion. But I'm telling you, I don't have the training that I have with these elk assassins that I hunt with. RC knocks on my shoulder. Chav with me every year. Joe with me, helping me getting aggressive, teaching me that number one, you got to get your fat ass in the gym and lose some weight so you can and chase these critters. If I don't do those aggressive things in my nature, I'm not going to be successful elk hunting because I really suck at just standing by watching. I'm just not good at it.
How many people would have seen that elk running and number one, never drawn because the elk is running away.
Right.
And the best thing you did was if you drew, you gave yourself an opportunity by cow calling, by being active and taking a proactive sound out there. You stop him, you're at full draw, you find out 50, dead bull. Where in most cases, in a lot of cases, that's a done.
My spike last year, right? I mean, he was coming straight at me, and it was a point where I was like, okay, I have a plan. I know he's focused on Joe behind me, and then he's gonna walk right in front of me, and then I can draw as he passes, and I can shoot him quartering away. But then obviously Manano screws it up, and he's watching the phone. He doesn't know the spike is coming. The spike gets spooked. When the spike gets spooked, I just took that opportunity to draw.
Yeah, man.
And then when I drew, he got spooked even further. He's like, "Oh my God! What was that?" But then the cow call was thrown, and he stopped at 30 yards, and I was already at full draw, ready to shoot. I could have very easily not drawn because I felt like I didn't have a shot.
Sure.
And when he spooked, he could have just simply ran away and never stopped. But, by just taking the risk of doing those extra things and just kind of taking the opportunity to draw and, that's, I think what we're trying to say is what we call aggressive or active.
And being active in that draw, right? Being active in your draw, that's what got you the kill. If you don't draw, you don't ever kill that animal. We say that 1,000 times, Joe. You have to draw, and that's being active, okay? Drawing your bow is the number one activity you got to do before we can loose that arrow.
If you don't draw the bow, nothing gets shot.
Exactly. 2 years ago, or 3 years ago, Joe and I are on a mountain with an 8-minute standoff with a bull staring straight at us. I mean, he is staring a hole through us for 8 solid minutes frontal at 35, 38 yards, and he is frontal the whole time. When the bull finally decides to turn to give us a broadside, not only do I have to draw, but I have to step out beside of an aspen tree to even loose the arrow. I cannot draw and just shoot him because when he turns, he actually puts that aspen tree that was to his right in the kill zone. So I have to step out and shoot the bull, right? I'm telling you guys, you got to risk it. And when the cool thing is I got another guy with me, but I could have done it all myself. If I bugle or if I scream at him, we're going to stop him again. And he's going to look back at us. They have that fatal flaw, right, Joe?
Absolutely.
They're always going to stop and look, man.
I said that. I must have said that 30 times this last week guiding, because every time we spooked a cow or a bull, I would say to my hunter, watch, fatal flaw. Every time they would stop once they got in the trees and turn broadside, man.
Yeah.
Every time, just to see what it was that had spooked them.
Yeah, I was going to say too, I think, just from my own experience on the aggressive part, I think depending on your demeanor, right? Maybe you're not, I'm an aggressive person. I'm a real type A,
Right.
I'm just going to run through everything. You may not be that kind of person, but look, you just got to remember, I think, and you have to get your mind in a place where make sure you're prepared, right? When you're coming hunting, you're mentally, you're physically, all those things, you're ready to go. Just accept the fact you're going to make a lot of mistakes out there. They're just going to happen. Okay.
Yeah.
Some of it may be.
And it's
fault.
okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Totally
You're going
okay.
to learn by every one of them.
Yeah. And where I'm going with that though, is a lot of times, and I did this, is I would make a mistake and then I couldn't stop thinking about it.
You'll be
And
better
dwell
for
on
it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You would dwell on it. Yeah.
Dwell on it, exactly. And then it's in your head, and then it's not going to do you any good. And then I read a quote years ago, and I'm a big baseball nut, right? But who had the most hits in baseball?
Ty Cobb.
No, Pete Rose.
Or Pete Rose. Pete Rose, yeah.
Yeah. He had like 5,000 some hits.
Right.
Who has the most outs in baseball?
Pete Rose.
Pete Rose.
Yeah, Pete Rose, exactly.
Because he swung it.
Yeah, you got to swing. You got to swing, man. You got to try to get those hits. So if you're that kind of person that, don't let it wear you down. You'll learn from it. Clear your mind and just keep going. I blew opportunities this hunt. I blew an opportunity to kill a really nice bull because I got over aggressive. It had been 4 days. I hadn't seen an animal. I actually had to pack out of an area, pack into a new area, finally locate him. Bull screaming. He's got cows. I'm putting the Mohican sneak on him. I'm moving in on him. I quit calling at a point where I was at. I get that tunnel vision. I get busted by 2 cows. So what did I do? I tried to call those cows to me. So I did a couple of cow mews, went right into a bugle. As soon as I did that, he screamed at me. He was mad. So I knocked an arrow and I went at him. I mean, I was going so fast. I got between some bushes and I face planted. I mean, I even turned around and looked at it almost knocked me. Yeah, it almost knocked me out. I mean,
You fell down?
Oh, I fell face first, man. I just
I've done that. It pisses you off too.
Yeah.
It makes you mad.
Brought it on the bow. I'm like, it took me a while to get up, and I turned to my partner. I said, "Hey, did you get that on tape? Are you recording it?" He's like, "Oh, dude, I didn't." I said, "Oh, I was gonna put that on the ElkBros, dude, because this is what you don't do." And I ran that bull off. That was my opportunity to kill him.
Yeah.
But I shook it off. I laughed about it and said, "Wow, that was I looked like a knucklehead out there."
But let me ask you a question though, dude. Did you falling and making the noise and face planting it? Is that what scared him, or did he see you go down and see the human there?
No, he never saw me. But then I heard him roundup bugle after that, and then he was
he
I
never needed to bugle at that bull.
Yeah, that was it exactly.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Because
Well, I didn't bugle at him. I bugled at I called his cows to me.
Yeah.
He
thought there was another bull in the area.
And I went right at him. I had good cover. Yeah. And I got between these trees, and I thought he was probably maybe 55 to 60 yards from me, from where I heard him scream. But I mean, it was a commotion when I fell. Everything just
ran ass over tea kettle.
It was horrible.
Did you toss your bow? Did you toss your bow?
No, because I had my bow in my sling.
Oh,
but, I was kablam. I'm looking like, okay, did I just? I was hoping I didn't jab myself with a broadhead.
Luis, I think one of them rock monkeys jumped up and grabbed his toe.
He took it for the team, man. He took it for
what ended up happening is my boots. I checked my boots before I left. They were good. 4 days hunting in a bunch of rocky stuff.
Yeah.
The heel started coming off my left boot.
Oh,
No,
been
no.
there, done that.
Yeah.
Ask me how I know.
So anyway,
But you know what,
I wish
Eric?
I had the footage, but
I-
I shook it off. You know, it's like, hey, it happened. There's more animals in here. Let's keep chasing. I still
Eric brings
have a
up,
plan.
But I want to say though, I really don't think your noise is what scared him. I think he thought it was another bull just right there on top of him, or even two bulls starting to wrestle a little bit, and he just figured he's going to get them girls to get out of there, man.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, it might have been the case.
I really feel the same way, Joey. He hits on something though that's super important. A lot of guys dwell on their defeats, right? Or they dwell on the things that went wrong. And we have no opportunity to that be a positive thing for us as elk hunters, man. We got to have a real short memory and take it and learn from it and flush it. Because I've watched some of even in our camp, I watched some guys really dwell on things that I think hinders them from not being able to be aggressive or be active in their setups, because they're worried about, well, what happens when I do have to draw? What happens when I do got to cut that arrow loose, right? I've had some things go wrong in my setup. And I think that hesitation, I played football and baseball and coached a long time. Hesitation is the assassination of your dreams. I promise you, man. Because when we hesitate and we don't believe in ourselves, it's really hard to execute your plan, right? And there's a lot of guys that carry that failure with them, where it's not ever a failure. It's a learning moment that you should be putting in that memory bank, but not dwelling on the failures, because we're out there hunting elk in their element. They're living every day with predators way more equipped to kill them than we are, right? So it's a critter that we're out there trying to outsmart, outwit, and put on the ground. And I'm telling you, it's hard. It's extremely difficult, right?
And look,
go ahead.
I think I've been there, Gilbert,
For sure.
and I think most importantly, it's okay to dwell as long as it's a short process, and as long as you overcome it and you use it to grow.
I'm talking about guys carry it with them through their whole hunt.
Exactly.
Man.
Exactly.
And that is super difficult to get past, and you to be active in that next setup. Because listen,
and it's not easy.
No, it's not. And I've lived it, fellas. I mean, I didn't walk in here killing, 12 or 13 bulls in a row because that it was easy, man, or 10 or 15 or however many it is. It is not. And I ran through a whole bunch of scenarios that were wah at the end of the day, right? I mean, it's serious. And I've been with Chab, and I've been with Joe, and I've been with RC and Carl Gamage. I mean, seriously, these guys have put me in the middle of scenarios where I messed them up myself, but it's that confidence every time you get out there. And that's why RC said something to me so early on in my elk hunting career. You gotta knock one down. When you knock one down, it gets easier from there because you understand the process. And all of that fear, all of those mishaps, all of those things go away, right? And
he was just trying to get you to kill one, bro, because you kept passing and passing.
He kept passing them up. I just wanted one down.
Man, you just wanted to be done with this guy.
I just wanted one out.
He came with me and passed a couple, and I was like, this is it, man.
Yeah.
We gotta have a conversation, bro, because
that is 100% true. I'm not going to deny any of that. And look, I was not going to let my mentor down this year. When we got the opportunity, man, I told him, I said, I promise you, first one gives me an opportunity, son, we're going to get it done. If I can't get it done for you, I'm gonna get it done. I promise you. So look, I mean, those instances breed such confidence in our hunting prowess, and you got to go through some adversity to get to the other side.
Well, I want to ask RC because RC's style and method on the ranch for years wasn't a whole lot of calling. So you know where you were, RC, and what you were experiencing being with Gilbert this year. What was your thought processing on that? How did you deal with that, and what did you think about that, the difference in that style?
It was good. I mean, I'll be the first one to admit I learned a bunch. Stuff that I already knew, but I didn't.
Way too kind.
I was like, okay, yeah, all right. But again, it was like, well, I think I would have done this, but let's see what happens. Let's play this out. And I mean, it was great. I mean, it was really great. But as far as I was going to mention it a while ago, your aggressiveness is creating your shot. I mean, if you sit back and wait, you're not going to get anything done. You've got to create your moment, on your opportunity. Exactly. So that is my aggressiveness is, when I see an elk, I'm going to do everything in my power, whether it's call, do the Mohican sneaking or whatever. I'm on that dude. I'm like a hound dog on a bear.
Like a rat on a Cheeto.
Where I see it most of all is I don't think people have difficulty taking some kind of action when they see an animal, especially if they get eyes on it away. I think where people have a hard time with being active and aggressive is when they're not hearing or seeing an animal. And so they assume that there are no animals in the country, and so what I want to do with this is I want to talk about the levels and progression of aggressiveness so that people understand this in the different ways. Grinders tuning in, thank you for listening to the Blue Collar Elk Hunting Podcast. Our goal is to share our knowledge and help you flatten that learning curve so that you too can have some of the very same incredible experiences that have given all of us here at ElkBros a lifetime of memories. If you like what you hear or see, you can get all of this information plus so much more from our Base Camp Elk Hunting Training Camp, the first in a series of online courses from our Blue Collar Elk Academy. Our Base Camp Training Camp allows me to use my coaching style and share almost 40 years of elk hunting experiences successfully hunting elk on public lands, as well as over 20 years guiding hunters of all ages and experience levels. This course will be like nothing you have ever experienced in concept and structure, using success-based coaching techniques that will elevate your confidence and skill sets. Our camp will prepare you specifically from that final moment most in your control, those final minutes or seconds the elk is in front of you, backwards through each step and level, allowing you to see, visualize, understand, and relate every coaching point to what lies ahead, the next step, the next thought process, the next success. Because y'all, you've already been there. You know what it looks like. By tapping my 30 years of teaching and coaching experience, our camps are developed considering multiple learning modes with text, visuals, audio, as well as video. And Base Camp will benefit those new to elk hunting all the way to the 10 to 15 year vet. So if you are looking for that one thing to help you fill that tag this year, invest in the most important piece of equipment there is, you and your elk hunting knowledge. You can find the Blue Collar Elk Hunting Academy and the Base Camp Training Camp at ElkBros.com. That's ElkBros.com. Keep dreaming of the screaming, believing in achieving, and most of all, keep grinding. Like for example, how we locate, find elk, or bring elk from other areas. That in itself, like a lot of people, because there's a fence line and there's private property and you're hearing a party going on the other side, they're going to come back to camp and say, all the elk are over there on the private property.
Why didn't you throw your own party?
Absolutely. So there are active, aggressive acts that you can make to be able to bring those elk from that party to your party. All right, that you can do that. And we talk about that when we do scenarios or, when we're locating elk. A lot of people, the only type of thing that they do to locate, and listen, when you're locating elk, that means you're trying to see an elk or you're trying to hear an elk. Or you're seeing fresh sign of the elk. That's how you're trying to locate them. Well, most people figure locating is only given a location bugle and getting a response. Whereas we are very active when we're moving through the woods or where we select to move through, whether it be a bedding area, whether it be a transition area, and we're doing a scenario of a group of cows moving through the area, so that those elk hear that and start moving in, so that we can now see them, and we have found and located them, right? So we're active in that sense. Or like Luis talks about, you can be when it's totally quiet, and you can actually inject rut activity into an area.
That's what I was going to say.
You bet.
Yeah.
That's what we were doing on our
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, it was like, yeah, you did this and you may not get anything today, but it was like when we'd go back, we had to go back a lot of times the same way. Right. And looky there, they were here last night.
You bet.
You know,
yeah.
So.
Well, you can even get, elk that are being silent is because they haven't worked up that testosterone level. Yeah. And when they start hearing other elk that are, that are screaming, that are challenging, that are in a rut fest, it gets them excited.
Yep, they want to be part of that party.
Oh, man. I mean,
they're herd critters.
Have you ever watched, I don't know if you guys do this, but people that are watching a fight, have you're sitting there and all of a sudden the person that's watching is like, they're like, they're moving their body like, throw that punch, like this, and they start moving and to the jab and stuff.
Man,
yeah,
watching the movies Rocky with Rocky.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Oh, man, I would be I had a pillow and I was punching the pillow while I was watching the movie.
Absolutely, man. And you get out there and you start making those sounds and doing those things and doing those rubs, doing the raking and doing.
That's elk hunting, Joe.
It raises the level, man.
Oh yes,
that's
elk
hunting,
definitely.
buddy.
And we had that happen where it might not have happened that evening. It might not have happened next morning, but all of a sudden, man, elk start sounding off in the area. Number one, they've come to the area, and now they're starting to sound off because they're advertising, hey, I'm here now. Where are you guys at, right? So that's I'm sorry, go ahead, man.
No, go ahead, brother. That's an aggressive.
Yeah, that's an aggressive
behavior,
aggressive,
I guess.
active behavior,
Active
right?
behavior,
Yeah.
I was one of the things I've noticed that we talk about this all the time, and we get to the certain point of either having the opportunity to kill the animal or the opportunity to spook it. Okay, right. But we don't talk what happens after we spook it, and I think that's another thing I learned this year is that it's amazing how much you can get away with even after you spook the animal.
That's what Gilbert was talking about earlier.
Exactly. Yeah. Because and I'm talking
he was looking
about
for elk when he came in there.
Well, and I'm talking about not just the same elk. I'm talking about other elk that you have not seen
for sure.
And so when you get into a situation like that, when you miss an opportunity, Manano shot this cow that was 5 feet in front of him. Right. And had that blew up incident. Right. And immediately after, these cows came back and walked in front of him when he was taking a dump. And immediately after that, when we were trying to call these cows back, we got this bull coming from behind us. Right. And this is after we made all this noise, after him and I talked about what happened after he was taking a dump.
And they weren't quiet about it. I promise you.
And and then we're just on top of the ridge having this conversation. They're still around. So
Spanish.
They're not only around, they're coming in. So
and they may be coming in as well. Yes.
And that's what we talked about it wasn't the magic of taking a dump. It was the magic of the time that
it took
between
to take the dump
after you made sounds and animals got a chance to catch up to you, right?
Yeah. So, same way with our bull.
There was something in the air as well.
Well, look, Manano's made an aggressive move early in the morning.
I will say mine would attract. Mine would absolutely.
What, the bears?
Yeah.
It would attract vomit.
Bears.
So let's talk about the progression of aggressiveness as well. So we've talked about locating. We've talked about injecting. Time of day when we hunt. Or we're out there 2 hours ahead of time, or we're out there at night after locating. So we are being active when most people are not being active. Again, that's an aggressive act. That's an We're being active in that we're not wasting time. We're utilizing the time. We're hunting the hunt, man, and trying to ensure that the next day we'll have an animal that we can be on, right? So that's another way. So we've already talked about, like, most people think that when it comes to calls, that aggressiveness is the emotion, right? Whereas what we've said is the frequency and the use of them, right? Or using our scenario. So we pretty much talked about that. So that's another area right there. That's the progression and how we're, finding, locating, injecting rut activity, the time of day that we're out there, how we're using our calls, when our calls, and that we're doing things to make animals come to us. When we ignore or engage, now this is, I don't know that it's just a different kind of activity, right? So, it's funny. We can ignore a target bull, right?
Bet.
We can ignore him because we don't call at him. We call within our own scenarios. That almost sounds like, well, if you're not calling at him, you're not being aggressive, right? Yeah. But, we
I
are.
don't know that there's anything more aggressive than that slow play tactic. Right?
Yeah. Or a rut fest, or an advertising bull going up a ridge, all of that, right?
Yep.
So now in that progressive, like you said, how we react to a response. So many people will hear a response and they'll stay put and continue to call back and call and back and call, right? And instead of cutting that distance, right? You talked about moving to have the shot opportunity when we're there, and making sure that we're going to draw or get in rifle position to be able to make that shot. So, I mean, all of these different areas are areas that we are practicing and being active and being aggressive. And again, it all comes down to that word, risk, right?
Yeah, and creating your opportunities.
Yes. Right?
With the event of a risk. You got to risk things.
So I have a question for you, Chav. I'm going to ask you this question.
Thank you.
Can you be aggressive when using a blind or a tree stand?
Yeah, I suppose you can. Depending again what time of day. You can act like there's a bull, in the waller.
You mean
just the amount of time you stay in the blind to be aggressive.
And then using calls to indicate that there's a group actually being active at a water hole or waller. I know the bulls that I encountered this year came in quiet. The cows came in quiet, but that was in the middle of a day type scenario where it was really, really hot. But I think you can, depending on the situation. I think when Gilbert shot theirs, that was close to a water hole, wasn't it?
It was right in the middle of a water hole.
Yeah. So somebody could have set up. They could have been there early and just set up there and called them in.
It was a hike, I can tell you that. You got to want to be there because it ain't an easy spot to get to, is it, Joe?
So I think we've done a pretty good job of getting that point across, and I really, really hope our listeners understand that, to us, that not just being successful once, but consistently successful is because we are very active and aggressive in our actions to try to create opportunity, and that we're willing to blow things up rather than being passive and letting those opportunities go by us. We're going to go run out in the middle of traffic. We're not going to sit on the sidelines, man. So kind of like Cole Wilkes. Wilkes, he just jumps right in the middle of a mud puddle, right?
Yeah.
I'd like to say.
Look, I wanted to say too that Chav's being aggressive, also blind hunting or stand hunting, is the amount of time you put in. Chav could have hunted there a couple of times and not seen anything and never went back and never would have got the opportunity because he was not being aggressive with staying with the plan, right? I think spending tremendous, if you're hunting water, that midday hunt's going to be good. At some point in time, they are going to come find that midday and, being there early in the morning, being there late in the evening. I mean, Chav hunted there all day, a couple of times. So, I mean, that's tough because it was cold in the mornings and then it gets kind of lonesome in the afternoons. But you put your time in and look what happened. I mean, you got an opportunity, Chad.
Man, sometimes we even got hung up on, hauling elk down the mountain and stuff like that. And it would be nighttime and chaff would still be out there after being sitting there, being there all day.
Yes.
But another thing I wanted to just let people understand too is like, you can be aggressive, but by running through the woods, just running and blowing stuff up, right? And look, that's
you could be stupid.
You will find elk and you will spook them for sure. But you can also be aggressive by doing that silently and still actively calling and listening, and then being able to just get close to them without blowing them up. Right. And so there is a difference between
a dance, dude.
It's a dance. Yes.
It really is.
You got to know. Yeah. And you start to get the rhythm of that and it comes.
It depends on the season too, I suppose. Right. It depends on the mood of the elk, and depends on the time of the year. It depends.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It depends of the sign you're seeing.
Yes. Yep. Absolutely.
And there is a way to be aggressive too, man. And what I mean by that is, if you're going to be aggressive and be active, you need to make sure that you're doing it in a way that you're not going to mess up and mess your scenario up. RC and I had a bull coming to us, and these guys, these other hunters, and look, man, we're hunting public land, right? So you're going to be around other hunters. They heard that bull. They dove off a ridge. And look, they're being aggressive. They're using their feet to get in there on him. They heard him blow up down there, and then they heard us with our herd talk, and they thought it was a big herd of elk with a bull in there. They dive off, but when they dive off the ridge, they got the wind right up their butts. So as soon as they dive off, the bull hangs up and he smells them diving up from behind him, man. Yeah. So when you guys are going to be aggressive,
right?
Yeah. You got to understand what your rules of engagement are when you do that. You got to know your wind.
That's so spot on, man. Because I kept thinking when we're talking aggressiveness this year with my bull, when we threw that location bugle and that bull responded and we noticed how close he was, the reaction immediately was check the wind, cut the distance, find an area where you can set up, because we were exposed. We were in the open.
2, 3, absolutely.
Yes, we didn't have an area where to set up. So the first thing we did is we checked the wind. It's like, okay, we got to get into that ravine, and we knew that getting into the ravine was already a bit close, but it was either we moved there or he was eventually going to get to us too quick and see us and blow the whole thing up. Yep. So, I mean, being aggressive is, and I wasn't aggressive on the calls. That was just a location bugle. And then I did a few cow calls when I got set up, but it was aggressive in the fact that, hey, got to check the wind quick, got to react quickly, got to find a good place to set up, and then now be quiet and play your scenario.
Our rules, our ElkBros rules of engagement, man. Yeah. So, I mean, you follow.
What would have happened if you just stayed in that clearing, man? He'd have pulled up to that clearing and looked out there and not seen what he needed to see. You'd have never seen that bull again.
Eric, what was that, bro?
No, I agree. I think those are awesome points. I think one of the things you guys have discussed, given the way you guys had to hunt this year, and along with myself, I didn't draw my wilderness area that I draw every year. I had to go to an area that I took some time to scout, like you guys did. But I only had 2 mountain ranges. I had one range, and then it's all prairie. Another 15 miles, there's another range. So where I decided to start based on my scouting, I was real comfortable. I thought that was going to be the place to go. But within 2 days, I realized that, I'm not seeing animal. I'm not seeing sign. I gotta pack out, and I had to make an and you guys did the same thing.
Yes.
Yep. Great point, man.
That's
super point.
That's a tough.
Great point, Eric.
Yeah. I mean, you were active in your decision making, being aggressive on, and making those active decisions instead of being very passive and going, well, I'll just keep pounding it here, and you end up, you know, trying
Nothing,
to,
pounding sand.
yeah, you're sitting
Yeah,
there. Yeah.
yeah,
You're
yeah.
just, you find yourself hunting an area and trying to force it to happen where it's not going to happen. That was
Man,
all.
it's such a tough call to make a move like that
It
because
is.
you guys were already
Cost you
set up.
days.
You guys were already,
Yeah.
you know, had a camp in place, all rigged
Damn
up,
right.
everything going. You know, you had, you know, RC had the Taj Mahal going on,
Yes.
and you know,
I saw
Listen,
that.
listen, I'm gonna tell you what, when Joe Gilly walked back in that camp and he said, boys, I don't know, but what I saw, I'm like, dude, this is no brainer. You know, I'm with you, bro. All he had to do was say that he thought that this was the right thing to do. And I knew exactly it was the right thing to do.
We were prepared for that. Our
sure.
goal was to be mobile. We
Yeah.
already had multiple areas picked out.
Right.
We
Yeah.
knew that if we were anything, we were going to move, and we were prepared to do that. We would have done the
Yeah.
same thing in the second area had
Yes.
that not panned out, man.
Yes.
So, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. And I mean,
Exactly.
and in essence, we kind of did, because we abandoned some areas that, you know, once we put boots on the ground, figured out there wasn't a whole lot of traffic there, we saturated another area and got it done.
Absolutely.
You know,
man. So, guys,
that's what I was so happy about. And Eric makes a unbelievably good point, is that you got to be aggressive in your approach too, and understand, man, when it's not going right, you know, we got to make changes, you know,
absolutely.
with an aggressive approach.
Let's go to the ElkBros mailbox, guys. I hope everybody, if you have any questions on that, send them in. Remember, we need you guys. Let us know what you need to know. All right. So, Eric, if you'll take the first one from Alex.
Yeah, Alex Fidel out of Hume, Missouri. His question is regarding using a decoy on your setups. He says, I know everything is situational and can and will change with different scenarios, but as a solo hunter, would you rather set up your cow decoy behind you and throw your cow call back at it as a bull is approaching, or use it for cover to close the distance like you've mentioned before? Additionally, allowing you to flick its ear or give its movement to give the bull further confidence as there's a real cow in front of him. He also says, if you have time, you've mentioned people will hike out past elk that meet half a mile or a mile off trailheads, roads, etc. With your experience in Colorado, do you think this still applies in the heavily pressured areas where there are tons of OTC public land hunters? Thanks again,
Heck
guys.
yeah.
I've learned so much. So I'll take the first part. I've got the decoy that you mount on the front of your bow. It's the
Ultimate Predator.
Ultimate Predator, yeah.
Yeah.
And I had it on my hunt, so I used it in a couple of different ways. There were times I would mount it on my bow. It just depended on on my scenario. Like, yeah, exactly. And then there were times that I let my partner carry it, and he was making sounds where I was being quiet up front, and I was letting him do the calling, and I was letting him keep that, so I would just remain distracted. I let him have that animal back there. He was making cow calls and bull sounds.
But he's
But
asking about
as a solo hunter,
though.
yeah.
Yeah,
As a
so
solo
as a-
hunter, I think
Yeah.
yes to all of the above.
It works
Yes.
great. Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
It works
Yeah.
really
We
good. I
had
love
a
using it.
Montana decoy that we used before, put it behind us, call back towards that decoy and have the bull come by us. You know, I think it's a perfect scenario. What I will tell you, brother Alex, is if you use the Predator decoy, make sure you shoot with that bow, with that
Yeah.
thing on your bow. Make sure you practice
Well,
with it on your
and-
bow.
And well, not just shoot with it, but
Yeah.
shoot multiple shots.
100.
Take that first shot, and then you got to draw again, because you got to get in the habit. Because the
Putting
first
the
thing you're going
arrow
to want to
through.
do is you got to run the arrow through. You'll slap the side of it; it'll drive you nuts. Yeah.
So
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I think I'm sorry, Joe. Just real quick.
quick.
I think one of the things that he mentions here is he's solo. He's setting up the decoy behind him, throwing cow calls back. You know, as the bull is approaching. You know, ideally, you want to throw the cow call where the decoy is at, and then move forward and set up, and then be quiet. You know, that way that bull is concentrated back there. But
what he's
obviously.
doing is fine. Yes,
Yeah, but depending on the situation, again, if he is in a situation where the bull is hung up and he needs to throw it back, I think that's perfect. I mean, I think the scenarios that he's describing there is exactly, you know, how I would use a decoy. As a matter of fact, this year I realized I wish I would have had one, because there was a situation in which we came up into a bedded cow, and as soon as I saw her, I got on my knees. We had terrain blocking our view, and Manano was behind me, and I'm telling Manano, I was like, we got a cow down there 30 yards. She was bedded, and her neck is, is up looking straight at us. And there's no way I could get up there. I was going to try to get up and draw. I was going to try to draw on my knees and then slowly get up and try to shoot. And then I asked Manano to see if he could go around and try to kind of make cow calls on that side to get her distracted when I got up. And this whole thought process took a long time. And I think if I would have had a decoy, put it in front of my bow, and then stand up and draw, I think I would have had an opportunity at that cow. So.
Yeah, where I would say though is, as a solo hunter, the difference between putting a decoy behind you and having one on your bow is whether or not that setup is a static or a dynamic setup. Because if you're in an area where, like Chad was saying with the blind, where you put calls out there and you have a decoy set on that, on that side for those elk to see as they come in and then move towards it, or like Gilbert and I were in that area where it was an open park that they come to feed, and we could put that decoy at the back to get their attention and have them walk by us. It works out very well. But to put a decoy behind you when you're in an active moving type of scenario doesn't work well at all, because you have to be active and moving. So
I leave
now,
your decoy behind.
yeah, if that bull moves off, now you got to go back and grab your decoy, and now you're trying to carry that awkward turd, or you have to fold up. You're wasting time. They're moving off. So in that situation, I like it on my bow so much better that I can move through like that, right? So a static,
you get away with a lot too with that thing on your bow, Joe. When you got eyes on you from those elk, I've watched it. I don't know how many times. I mean, I called a bull back 6 or 7 times for Brendan when he had that thing on his bow. But every time he'd hear us and he'd look over, he'd see that cow on that bow, and he was like, well, hell, that's a real elk. I'm gonna come back to see what's up. Why ain't she coming with me?
When I can shoot at a bull twice, actually have them booger 3 times.
Yeah.
So with that decoy, that tells you something right there. So it's a great decoy. It really is. Chav, Alex, I hope that helped you there. Will you take David's mail?
Okay, David Alvarez from Shelton, Washington. So we did get Washington.
Hey, Joe,
represented.
Hey, Chav, he had a second part to that question.
Oh,
and
okay.
I want an emphatic yes to the second part of his question. Are we blowing by? He's asking, you mentioned people hike out past the elk, maybe half a mile or a mile off trailheads. With your experience in Colorado, do you think that still applies to the heifer? Man, I'm telling you, where Chav was, where he was at, camps weren't very far away. And yes, people were driving right by elk all the time.
He was 300 yards from a 2-trap.
Yes, 300 yards from a 2-trap.
Yeah, and saw more elk than any of us.
Than any of us combined.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There'll be more on some of this stuff coming up later. So definitely. Good stories.
Hey, Chuck.
Okay, we'll go over back to Dave Alvarez. Hello, ElkBros. I've been listening to your podcast since the early 2020 and enjoying everything you guys put out. I am a new hunter, and this will be my 2nd year hunting, knowing full well that boots in the ground and experience only comes with time. I'm trying to decide where to spend the little bit of money I have after tags or gear or
gear. So after tags, on gear.
On gear or head knowledge, and maybe find a balancing between both. My first year out, my big purchase was a Kuiu backpack to help me carry my load.
I like it.
This year I'm thinking about a good pair of boots or a tent at the same time. While I was out there, I did come to the harsh reality that I really don't have any woodsmanship skills or knowledge on how to find and stalk elk in the woods.
Base camp.
Yeah, there's much I'll learn from the podcast, but I know that it's just scratching the surface. I know it's probably too late for me this hunting season, but I would like to hit year 3 hard. So where would you suggest I focus? And P.S. shout out to the Venezuelan mafia. Knowing there's more hunters of Latin descent has really been encouraging for me, knowing I'm not the only one, because my friends and family don't understand why I pick up hunting.
I bet they like to eat it though, David. I bet they eat the heck
I
out of it
bet
when they come over the house.
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Gracias, David.
So I want to
Yes,
start
sir.
with something here, and that is that you can kill two birds with one stone here, bro. Because if you're already looking to get a good pair of boots or a tent, most people equate, and I don't, but most people equate a good pair of boots and a tent with most likely good pair of boots between $300 or $400, a tent that could cost you anywhere from $200 to $400 as well. So you're looking at dropping, pretty close to $1,000 on boots and a tent, right? Or at least like what, $600, right? $600 on that.
I mean, it depends. I mean, I wear a pair of North Pack boots that are very lightweight, and those boots cost me $185. They only lasted 3 years. I poked a hole in the daggum Gore-Tex in it. So look, I mean, it's $180. I got a pair of Mondles that are $300. Soles came off of them. So at the end of the day, man, I have not had a sole come off the end of these North Face boots in 3 years. So I'll probably buy me another pair of them. I've been real happy with them. You check them out. But I'm going to tell you the most important part, David, is that they're comfortable. That's the most important part, and how well they fit your feet, man.
And get you good socks.
The point I want to make though,
socks.
man, is that like I went into REI the other day, and they have they always take like things, and they have, what do they call it? Their garage sale, right?
Right.
That they do
bargain
stuff.
bin.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So boots are something that you really got to make sure, if that's what you're wanting, that works and is personal to you.
Go try
But
them
you
on.
take the tent, man. There's so many of these people that are selling used tents that are single man or, whatever style you're looking for. It doesn't have to be new. There's a lot of people getting rid of that. Get on those different places on that Facebook store or trading show on there, or you can get on Craigslist, or you can get on used stuff on there from some of these hunting communities. There's lots of places that in backpacking communities, especially, you can pick up a lot of this gear and stuff like that. So what I'm saying is, look, I think Corey Jacobson's course, if you use the term Elk Talk, you're going to get 20% off of his $99. Going to cost you $70. You can get their course. Our course is $50. You can get that course. Go out there and buy something used on your tent. Get the daggum knowledge, because you can go walk comfortable. You can sleep comfortable. You can have an empty pack and not kill a daggum thing because you don't know where to go with it. You're going to sleep good and you're going to have good, comfortable feet, but you ain't going to see no elk if you don't work on your knowledge.
And your woodsmanship. And that's all covered in our base camp.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And I don't care if you get our course, if you get somebody else, if you go to the collect, it doesn't matter, man. In fact, I suggest to you to get as much education and knowledge from people that are getting it done, and all that other stuff will start to fall into place, man. In fact, all you got to do is, man, you start calling some relatives, friends, other people that you start finding in the community. You can borrow a lot of equipment that they're just not using this year, man. So,
and David, those boots, man, go try some on. I was at Shields in Fort Worth the other day. We were playing ball up in that country, and I went to Shields. They're the only ones around our area that carry crispy. Man, I've heard so much about crispy boots, right? So I had to go try me a pair on. Big O's feet are as wide as they are long. So at the end of the day, I'm a caveman, okay? And my wife says I just need to get laces with the box and lace them up on my feet, and I'll be all right. But so for me, I went in there, and the widest boot they had, I ain't gonna cut it, fellas. I put on a pair of 14s and it still wasn't wide enough. And, I wear a 13 quadruple E, and they just they weren't going to fit my feet. So I'm not buying a pair of $350 boots that I got to go break in and hope they fit my feet. Ain't happening, fellas. Right.
Yeah.
So love crispy, man, but they don't make a wide enough boot for Big O. If they hear us on the podcast, hit me up, guys.
And he's a friggin' Aborigine, man. It's not like it most human beings.
Big O's got feet like a hobbit, man.
I'm telling you straight up, Aragon. You right about that.
We use a Solomon.
Lord of the Rings there.
Yeah. The other thing I was going to say to David is a great place to buy gear. Go to your local archery shop. Start
Yeah.
talking to those guys, because you got guys in there that like to spend money on stuff, and they
Yeah.
always got to have something new, and they're always looking to get rid of last
That's
year's
right.
stuff.
Good
Hit those guys
idea.
up. Yeah, and they're hunters, so they're gonna know. They're gonna give you the rundown on all that gear.
Sure.
Hit those guys up, man. They'll hook you up.
And as far as the tent, man, anything says Cabela's on it usually was made pretty well. And they got really inexpensive, good tents that'll keep you dry. Don't listen to Luis when he's in recommended tents. I can tell you that straight up, because you'll have the
Still
Nile
works.
River running through yours.
Takes me 5 minutes to set it up and still works. You just got a bad lemon.
It's crazy.
So no, I would check Salomon boots as well.
Yes, good pair of boots. I
I've
haven't
used those
tried a
for
pair on.
4 years now, and man, they're just so good and durable. So
Good stuff.
Yeah. Look, man. Yeah. Just get out there in different places. And there are a lot of discounts. Even like I said, REI, they have that garage sale section with a lot of tents a lot of times.
What was the CEO Rob Canales sleeping in this year, Joe?
I'm not sure what
like a
That was a
teepee,
neat
man.
little tent, man. It's like a teepee, and it went up quick.
yeah. It's
And I don't think it was big. I mean, it was a football.
very
I mean,
lightweight.
Yeah.
It just didn't have a floor, so
Right.
just things could run underneath it.
Oh,
Yeah.
really? It did not have a floor.
No floor.
Wow, did not know that.
But he actually had a lightweight it was a lightweight type cot that kept him about 3 inches down. It's one of those
Yeah.
deals that just incredible lightweight. He had water running in there, never got wet, dude, because it went underneath that thing. So
You just got to make sure that you don't leave stuff on the floor.
yeah.
If you ain't hunting in that thing in this country down here, Joe, let me tell you, no shoulders will come find you in
And
that tent.
snakes, no shoulders.
Yeah.
And,
You don't want that.
they-
What's a
Nope.
no shoulder? What's a no
and-
shoulder?
Snakes.
Snake.
Oh, baloney, dude.
Oh, you say baloney. You ask Luis. He's been with me every time
Dude,
Luis goes with me.
We sleep out on the ground.
Yeah, man, it's because you're at 10,000 feet and ain't none of them critters up there.
You don't have
Okay,
none of them poisonous ones, man.
But I'm talking to somebody who's going elk hunting, not going pig hunting in Texas, man.
For sure.
So
That's okay. I just still, I just kind of facetious about stuff like that, man. I don't like stepping on them, seeing them, hearing them. I just don't like them.
I'll never forget. I'll never forget, Chad. One time I asked Joe, we're going across a real famous area. RC Knox will know where it is. And it's a big open park. And we're walking across there. And I look at him and I said, Joe, y'all have any snakes up here? He says, no, man, it's too high. It's too cold. If snakes ain't up here. I hadn't walked 3 feet and a big, long garter snake runs right across my foot. I'm like, Joe, you just said there were no snakes up here, man. He
snakes
goes,
to worry about.
yeah, it's what he said,
about.
snakes to worry about.
Yeah,
But
well,
then I
and
find out from Chav, he gets bit by a rattlesnake down there in Cimarron. I'm like, look, man, that's, another 3,000 feet and that snake's up there with us. So
I even for me in New Mexico, I've seen snakes all the time. Like there was one when we were looking for the bear, almost ran over my foot. Then there was another one when we were looking for my spike on that log. Is scare the crap out of me, man. I just don't know what it is about
Listeners
snakes.
out there, New Mexico is full of snakes. Do not
yeah,
go.
don't come to
Don't
New Mexico.
come, man.
Do not show up in New Mexico.
Especially
Because there's lots
in
of
the
snakes.
southern half.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
the Gila's full of
Gnarly,
them.
Oh,
they're
The
gnarly
Gila's full of
looking.
them.
Yeah.
Oh,
the
gnarly
Gila
looking.
monsters.
Yeah.
The Gila monsters and rattlesnakes.
Yeah.
Gilbert, you
Terror.
better.
Gila monsters are
Yeah,
horrible.
we're losing all credit. Gilbert,
We're
close
losing
us out.
control, Joe.
Go ahead and close us out, Gilbert.
Guys, if you like what we're doing, please subscribe.
Subscribe.
Please subscribe, rate and
Hey.
review us. You got to go to Apple Podcast or iTunes to review us, and you got to check out more elk hunting content at ElkBros.com. And just a reminder, if any of our listeners would like their questions answered on our show, please send us your questions to info@ElkBros.com. That's INFO@ElkBros.com. And like we say down here in the Lone Star State, husbands kiss your wives, wives kiss your husbands, hug your babies, keep your broadhead sharp and your powder dry. And we'll see you next week right here on Blue Collar Elk Hunting.
And for all our grinders, here he is. More music from our brother,
Mr.
Tony Wynn.
Winthrop.
Peace.
Two dub in the house.
Guys.
I wasn't raised in Tennessee, but I've always loved to sing. The legend of the Willie Swamp, yes, my brother and me. I learned to play the air guitar and play drums on the dash of a Ford and cook on an open fire in the great outdoors. I stacked wood on Soaky Road like my grandpa Caden split. Yeah, $5 went a long way when I was a kid. I had dreams of being a star, living on an open road with a cowboy hat on my head. Now I'm looking for a pot of gold. I'm just an ordinary, average country dude. I knew the best holes on the river, I kept them under my lid, just the same way that my grandpa and my daddy did. They done told me right from wrong, only take what you need, and it'll be here all your life, son, just wait and see. Oh, I'm just an ordinary, average country dude. I work hard for a living even though I wasn't raised the same as you. I got country pride so deep inside, yeah, tonight I'll tip back a few. I guess I'm just an ordinary, average country dude. Taking Roosevelt bulls and blacktail bucks, yeah, a time or two. I guess I'm just an ordinary, average country dude. Oh, I'm just an ordinary, average country dude. I work hard for a living even though I wasn't raised the same as you. I got country pride so deep inside, yeah, tonight